Welcome everybody, it's the Walt Pod Opposition Preview. I'm your host today, Philip Macbeth-Seath, and today I'm joined by Preston North End's Ollie Hargreaves, who is at the Butter Pie Pod. Thanks for joining us, Ollie. How are you doing this evening?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Phil. Thanks for having me on.
No worries, no worries. Like I say, neither of us have had the most ideal of starts so far, so hopefully we'll be able to have a nice chat and hopefully things will get better for both of us moving forwards.
Fingers crossed.
So, but before we tuck into the main part of the podcast,
Yeah,
just a quick shout out to our podcast sponsors at Black Star Amplification and Carry On. Today, I'm wearing their microphones and using their headphones to make sure that I sound as good as I possibly can. We're also sponsored by the Record Shop in Amersham, who have an enormous range of vinyl, audio, and guitars. So if you're in Amersham, pop in, check out their wares. So, Ollie, first and foremost, I know there's a lot going on for Preston at the moment, and I think that it would be prudent to start with the managerial situation. I think the world was shocked when Ryan Lowe departed after only one game of the season, and I'm interested to know what the reaction was amongst Preston fans, because from an outsider looking in, the timing sort of reeks a little bit of something going on behind the scenes that he wasn't particularly happy with, whether that was a lack of new faces, financial backing, because he's had 3 consecutive mid-table finishes, and I'm guessing that he probably wanted to push forwards and maybe the ambition wasn't met. I mean, what's it like from a Preston North End fan's point of view?
I mean, the way it happened, I think everyone's like shocked because no one expects the manager to leave after one game. But truth to be told, I anticipated it happening this season, early on in the season. So, to be fair, for it to happen after one game, it's probably happened before it was going to happen. Anyway,
Right.
the end of the last season was unacceptable. We'd gone 5 or 6 games without even scoring, losing every game, and then you go into the first game of the season. He's not on the greatest. He wasn't on the greatest terms with the fans anyway. Majority of the fans were very hit and miss with him. I'd probably say it was swaying towards 30-70 for against his favour for the amount of people that wanted him to stay.
Okay.
And then it just seemed a very rigid, a very dry performance against Sheffield United, and then obviously after the first game, you're getting booed off by your own fans, mainly towards himself. I think he's probably seen that and said enough is enough, because to be fair, over the past 2 windows, for Preston North End standards, including this one as well, he's been backed. He's been heavily backed.
Okay.
The most backed he's been, well, any manager's been. I think we've backed the wrong horse. I thought we should have done it under Neil, but we didn't. We've backed Ryan Lowe, and now we look to a new era. But it's not a good way for it to happen, because I mean, why couldn't it have happened at the start of pre-season? So we could have had a new manager in to build his philosophy, to build his style, but instead, we're trying to recoup the pieces after 2 games after he left, and then his interim left straight after.
So is it more of a relief from a fan's point of view? Is it more relief than confusion? You can see from what you've seen over the last sort of back end of last season, start of this, that you're thinking, right, okay, we were anticipating needing a fresh start. It just happens to have been a few games before we expected.
Yeah, it's a bit of both, really, because I felt like we really needed a change. I think the club needed a bit of a pick me up, but why? It's the question: why couldn't this have been done in pre-season? Why can't you've taught like? I know Ryan Lowe mentioned that he said that he wanted to walk. Apparently Peter Ridsdale tried to keep him and keep him on board. But why couldn't that have been sorted in pre-season? If you must have some inkling between the management and the hierarchy that the manager's not happy at the moment, and then he walks after one game. So for me, it should have been done earlier. But
It's a weird
here
one.
we are.
It is a weird one. It is a weird
Yeah,
one.
there's
But
not a lot we can do now, really, either.
no. I mean, I mean, all you can do, I guess, is move forward. So, which
Yeah,
brings me
absolutely.
sort of to the next point. I mean, at the time of recording, just for anyone listening in, we're recording this on Monday evening, and it seems that there's reports that it's all but done for Heckingbottom to be the new manager of Preston
Yeah.
North End. So how does that sort of feel, Ollie, with regards to, I mean, his most recent appointment, he took Sheffield United up. So to me, it seems like a positive championship level management appointment. So how do you guys feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, it wasn't my first choice, but he's a very good manager. To be fair to him, any manager who gets promoted from the Championship is a good manager. Albeit it was with an absolute amazing team under Sheffield United, and I think he would have been disappointed if he didn't get promoted with that side. It's going to be a lot different at Preston. We've not got the resources. I looked at their defensive resources compared to ours, and it's like chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
So it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a bit of a change. But reading more into it and listening to things, I'm starting to be swayed more into the fact that it is a good appointment. Over the past 8 months, I've read about how he's been over to Leverkusen to see and speak with Xabi Alonso, see how he's done his philosophy and learn off him, and he's also been to Girona as well in Spain. So, it seems like he's putting himself there. He's put himself in the shop window, and now he's been given his chance. And I'll give him my full back, and I expect every Preston North End fan to give him so too.
Excellent. I mean, those two teams that you just mentioned, the caliber of those teams. I mean, you've got Girona
absolutely.
that are making their Champions League debut this year, and you've got Bayer Leverkusen, who are, let's face it, nobody beats them.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, there are worse people to be learning from than Bayer Leverkusen and Girona. So no, good on him. And I mean, you did say earlier on that he wasn't your first choice. I mean, like I say, before, at the time of recording, there's still nothing confirmed, and I actually had it in my notes about whether or not you look to old people that know the club. So whether you look at Alex Neil, who you said earlier on about whether he should have been the manager that was backed, or even the unemployed David Moyes, and whether you could lure him back in. But who was your sort of preferred choice then?
Well, this is just me, frankly. I felt like with Preston North End looking quite over into the Scandinavian markets recently, I felt like potentially would go down the Scandinavian manager route, and I got full into looking at Scandinavian managers, and there was one that just sprung out to me called Kim Hellberg at Hammarby. He was interviewed for QPR and he was interviewed for Sunderland. He took over from Marty Cifuentes, who's obviously at QPR, and he seemed a very progressive manager. And I thought, you know what, North End have delved into the market for players. Why not delve into the market for a young, exciting, foreign manager? Because we've seen it with Roll, we've seen it with Cifuentes. Now you look at Labrie as well at Sunderland, he's kicked it straight off. So I was thinking, we may delve out into that. Another one UK base was, he was quite heavily rumoured as well as Brian Barry Murphy, Man City under-23s manager. Obviously got relegated at Rochdale, but he's there trying to build his brand. He kind of reminds me of like a Russell Martin, where he demands his players' player style, but it's really good to watch at times. I felt like we needed more of a massive change. I feel like Heckingbottom, Lowe from Heckingbottom, although it is a big change, they kind of play the same style. They play three at the back, they play with wing backs, but I definitely think it's an upgrade. And then obviously, the more once you realise that it's going to be Heckingbottom and you read more into it, you start pushing them up the rankings as you do, and go, you know what, I've probably dismayed him a bit, but I'm definitely happy with Heckingbottom, and I feel like it's probably the right decision over my two wants.
I mean, I think the thing is, we obviously already played Burnley, and I was speaking to Joe from the Turfcast, and he was saying about being a little bit unsure about Scott Parker. This is obviously before a ball had been kicked. I'm sure that he's absolutely dancing off the ceiling at the moment. But it's one of those ones where there's a lot to be said for managers that know how to get out of this league, and regardless of the squad resource, knowing this league it's a crazy league, and I think that those of us that are in it, as much as we all yearn to get out of it, we all know it's the best league in the world. And I think that having someone that could potentially take you to the sort of the so-called promised land of the Premier League can only be a good thing for you guys. So, like I say, I hope that after Saturday it's successful for you. But I mean, in terms of we said about I said about earlier on about whether or not you've been backed, and you said that actually you have been. So without trying to sort of sound too uneducated or anything, like, could you give some of the Luton fans a little bit of an idea about who is potentially names to look out for that are new to us playing you again this season?
Oh, so just like new signings, or is
Yeah,
it
just
just
new
players?
signings, any sort of star men
Okay,
as well that we need to be a bit
so
wary of.
yeah, it's all going to be dependent on who he plays. Actually, is Heckingbottom. I think the main one that you've got to look out for is Madge-Frockier, number 10. Um, Especially against Sunderland in the Carabao Cup, he was allowed his freedom. Under Lowe, I felt like he kind of got restrained from playing to his best abilities. He likes to free roam, but he's technically, the best player at the club.
Okay.
Technically wise, he's one of those players. But when he's consistent and when he's on it, I think he's one of the best creative midfielders in the league.
Okay.
He's such a bright spark, and if you are able to give him a chance to roam free, which obviously for Luton's hopes, I hope not, on your behalf, he's able to find a killer pass. He's able to make something out of nothing. He's the main one you got to keep an eye out for. We've also signed. We actually signed this player the day after Ryan Lowe left, called Jeppe Ockels.
Okay.
Who's another Danish player. He's a left mid / left wing back, but he's kind of like where we've tried to sign someone to replicate what Liam Miller did last season. So we're going to hopefully have the wing backs very attacking. So I feel like if anything, it's going to be going over towards the left hand side. You got Mads drifting off to the left, linking up with Jeppe Ockels potentially. I feel like that's going to be our best threat going into Saturday.
Okay, interesting. Thank you for that, because like I say, it's one of those ones where at this sort of hectic time of the season before the window closes, it's really difficult to keep track, to be honest with you. And like I say, I think that Luton have got a couple of players that they're looking to get over the line in the next couple of days. So even ourselves, we might have a couple of players that are available to us that we completely weren't expecting to have at the weekend just gone. So yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you, Ollie. I mean, moving forward into regards to how you've been doing so far, I mean, again, as an outsider looking in, there's been 2 league games so far, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up your backside, but it does seem like you've been unlucky. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Sheffield United, right? I think we've played each other too often in the last few years, and they wind me up. I'm not a big fan of Wilder, but the way that they beat you on the opening day, you could be forgiven to think, right, Sheffield United have come down from the Premier League and that's how they're going to go. They're going to go back into the Championship form that took them up. But the reality of it was that it was a big deflection on the first goal. Then there was a goalkeeping error, and it happened to land at Gustavo Hamer's feet, who's fantastic. He scored against us in the playoff final, and he's a fantastic player. And then you move forward to the Swansea game, and there was a goal where the ball may very well have been out. There was another ricochet for another goal. And I just feel like they were sort of downtrodden by the time the third goal went in. Is it just the fact that it's just not clicking at the minute, and you need a little bit of a change of luck? Is it, and then you feel like you'll be all right, or am I being a bit naive and thinking it's just bad luck?
No, I think you could probably look at it in both ways. I feel like the squad's are massive confidence players. When the back's against the walls and the fans are getting at them, they perform really poorly. Deepdale's meant. When you've got the full backing of the fans and the wanting them to drive them forward, Deepdale's kind of like a fortress. We do exceptionally well at home when we're behind the team and behind the management, and it was. Although unlucky, with obviously what's happened, the first goal was a deflection. We felt deflated. We were trying to get back into the game against Sheffield United, and then Freddie Woodman does that, and then that just knocks the stuffing out of everyone. And then, as you mentioned there as well, I'm not too sure if it was already out of play, but the Liam Lindsay handball that gave away a penalty against Swansea. Still, for me, why is his hand up there? Even if you're out of play, why risk it?
Yeah.
And then again, I feel like the players have just seen, we've got an interim manager in charge. The result doesn't really matter. We're going to be getting a new manager next week. I mean, I just felt like
tools down sort of thing.
yeah, they're down the tools, which is crazy to talk about in the second game of the season. But
Yeah.
I mean, if you're awaiting a new manager, then I suppose that's the way they do it sometimes. But yeah, a couple of the goals were bad luck, and I felt like they could have been avoided. But the way that the players react to obviously them happening and just downing tools straight away is unacceptable, and there needs to be a mood lift, which hopefully comes with the new manager.
Yeah, I totally understand. And going back to your sort of comment about the handball, we had our own moment of absolute madness at the weekend where we had Thomas Kaminski sent off for trying to annihilate two men at the same time whilst already on a yellow. So I can fully understand a little bit of a moment of madness. So yeah, so we're both hoping for a much more sensible weekend display from our players. Yeah, so in regards to when we last played, I mean, the last time we played up at Deepdale, it ended up 1-1, despite the fact that you guys went down to 10 men. And I recall watching that and feeling actually very lucky to take a point from it, because even though you had 10 men, you were all over us. And personally, I'm still scarred from the Brad Potts wonder strike at ours. It's still one of the best strikes I've ever seen live. In all seriousness, it was just something to behold, and I was really hoping to beat Preston quite well that day, but it just didn't happen. And that the way that goal went in was something wonderful. So what are your thoughts on how this weekend's going to go? How do you see the game go? I know it's difficult because you're waiting to have the management confirmed, but hopefully they'll be in place and there'll be a big buzz around Deepdale for you guys. So how do you see the game sort of going? What are your thoughts?
I think it's quite exciting. I think from the majority of North End fans, it's going to be, probably the most exciting game that they've been to in a while. Under new management, fresh start. Albeit it's not been announced yet. There's been rumours that, he's going to be in place by tomorrow. He's going to take training tomorrow. So he's going to have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it's a long week to try and implement your style. Obviously, it's going to take longer than a week to implement. So I feel like it's going to be a gradual change. I feel like the confidence will be back. I feel like the fans will be on the side. I can see us putting in a really decent performance. Whether it's enough against obviously good opposition like yourselves remains to be seen. I can definitely see us putting up a better performance than what we would have done with the management of previous years, previous weeks I should say. I won't go out and say that we're going to win. But I'd be optimistic for us to at least get something from the game, maybe a point or something.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. I think that there's, from a Luton Town's perspective, there's a sense of feeling a little bit unlucky that we're coming up against a team that are going to be on a bounce from a new manager. It seems to happen to us a lot. We either play a team that sack a manager straight after, or we come up against a team that have just employed a new one. So it's going to be an interesting one from us. I think if we've got any sort of ambitions to go up, we'd probably be earmarking it as 1 or 3 points. I don't think. I think the reality of it is that we've got ambitions to head back towards promotion, and the reality of it is that after only picking up 1 point from 2 games, we really need to get our backsides into gear, really. So it would just be nice to go into a game where we've got 11 men for 90 minutes. That's what I really want, because then we can sort of see where we're really at, because the Burnley game was not good for us. We did well against Pompey for the first half an hour, and then, like I say, everything got flipped on its head.
Just goes,
yeah. So it's going to be an interesting one. But that brings us to my last point, Ollie. So I've asked you to have a look at a few fixtures. I won't linger on it too long. I don't need too longer explanations. But if it's okay, I'm going to ask you to take part in our Sluga 6. So the Sluga 6 competition is between myself and 3 of my co-hosts. And what we've done is we've asked the opposition to take part and do weekly predictions, with a view to, if the opposition as a whole win the competition, we'll make a charity bet, or a contribution, should I say, to Luton Town's food bank. So I sent you the fixtures earlier on. So the first one, the one that's worth double points, is the Preston versus Luton game. So what are you going with for this game, Ollie?
Yeah, I've noted them down, and I'll try and stick to them as much as possible. So I'm going to go optimistic. I'm going to say 1-1.
1-1. Okay, that's great. And then we've got Blackburn versus Oxford.
I'm going to go 2-1 Blackburn.
2-1 Blackburn. Then we've got Borough versus Pompey.
I'll go 1-1.
1-1. Norwich versus Sheffield United.
I think Sheffield United will have too much for Norwich. I'm going to say 2-0 Sheffield United.
Excellent. And then we've got Stoke versus West Brom.
I'm going to say 1-0 West Brom.
And then we've got Sunderland versus Burnley.
That's going to be a tough game. There's going to be quite a lot of goals. I'll say 2-2.
2-2. I think Sunderland will bite your hand off for that, given how Burnley have been destroying people so far. But that's great. Ollie, thank you so much for your time and contribution this week. I do wish you all the best of luck after Saturday, of course. And I look forward to speaking to you again, hopefully before the game at Kenilworth Road. Just to give you one last chance, could you just reaffirm your socials and how people can follow you on your social media?
Yeah, of course. So the main one that we post upon is our Twitter or X, and it is at the Butterpie Pod. And then we're on all reputable good streaming sites, so Apple Music, Spotify, whatever you name it. Just the Butterpie Podcast, and then we're recording weekly and getting it out there.
Top man, Ollie. Thank you so much. That's all for this week on the Opposition Preview. Just another shout out to our audio partner, Black Star Amplification and Carry On, for our sound equipment. And one last final thank you to the record shop in Amersham, where you can buy all your vinyls, CDs and musical instruments. Keep an eye on our socials at The Walk Pod and at We Are Luton Town on X. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok. Take care, Hatters, and come on, you Hatters. Let's go and get 3 points at Deepdale. Take care. Cheers, everyone.